We just had a lovely chat with actor, producer, radio host Domenique Fragale. We spoke about her career to date, with her most notable role being Beth Cassini in HBO's The Nevers.
Yeah, we spoke about so much her work as a producer, a radio presenter, her campaigning for anti bullying organisations. It's a fantastic episode, lots of fun chat, and you will hear her little dog scampering around on the floor throughout the podcast. We just wish we could have got the doggo on video chat, don't we, Smith? You know, puppies just make things sell better.
They're cuter than us.
Yeah, speak for yourself. My goggle-eyed looks underappreciated in this industry. But anyway, enough about me. If you are here for Domenique, we'll play the episode in just a moment. But while we have your attention, we'd love to ask if you can please, if you haven't already, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, follow us on social media, engage with us, chat with us. We are building a community here and we're loving every single day of it. And thank you so much for clicking on this episode of our second series at In the Room. Now enjoy our chat with Domenique Fragale. Hello, Domenique. How are you this evening?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Yeah, we're not bad. What about you, Christian? You good?
I survived the storm. I'm good.
Yeah, we're recording this on Storm. Is it Eunice? Is that how you pronounce it? Storm Eunice Day?
I didn't know it had a name.
Yeah, all storms have names. They have like a specific alphabet thing, I think, when they name. Anyway, we're not going to get into this. Is not that type of podcast, but we're recording it on Storm Eunice, windy day. But we're going to have a lovely chat with Domenique about. Well, there's so much to crack on with. We might as well get on with it. So we like to begin our podcast, Domenique, by starting at the beginning of our guest's career. But for you, we'd like to be a bit more specific because reading online, it said that your enthusiasm for the arts began when you studied Shakespeare from a very early age. Now, we just want to know, how old is a very early age and what did this studying look like? Because I don't know about Christian, but I struggle to study Shakespeare now at times. So
It's hard. It's definitely hard. I started studying Shakespeare at about 12. I was about 11, 12. Yeah, I joined the Stamford Shakespeare Company because I was just a very odd kid who loved to read, and I was very social, which I think in the end, it turned out well for me in that way. But yeah, I started studying Shakespeare then when I was joining the plays, and then I think my enthusiasm for it really got even more when we had like outside Shakespeare tutors come into my secondary school, which was a really, it's a very odd thing for some schools to offer, but they did. And then I got even more excited about it when we had Michael Attenborough come in and give us some lessons on Shakespeare with in Arts Ed. So yeah, I just really loved it from then on, even more.
Yeah, I remember him coming in. Actually, they were amazing sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah. While we're on the topic of the of drama school, you studied the 3-year BA acting at Arts Ed. Another guest this series, Callie Cook, was in your year, so we're really getting the Arts Ed stories this season. We'd love to know a bit about what your experience was like at drama school. What did you learn while training that you still use today as an actor?
I think the biggest thing I really have taken from it is being able to think on your feet and improvisation, and especially doing radio presenting, that's all you have to do. You have to think on your feet all the time. You can never really have much planned, and I think it even helps when you go into auditions and you're getting thrown situations, redirects that not necessarily you hadn't thought of before. And I think as well, I always say this to people though, that when I left drama school and I'm working now, it's really weird. I kind of think that I wish I did drama school a little bit differently, because I think I would have done it very and completely different than how I went through it then. I mean, I was 18 when I got into Arts Ed. I left when I was 21, but with all the experience I have now, I think I would have cared less. I know that might sound very odd, but going back to drama school now, I think I wouldn't have cared what people thought. I wouldn't have, tried to show off as much, or I was a bit of the quiet one in the year. I think now we just know so much more about life now that we're out of it and outside those four walls. But I think that's the biggest thing I tell people if they're still going to drama school. I'm just saying, like, don't overthink as much, because it really puts boundaries on you whilst you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone, if they could go back to drama school, would change at least one thing about how they approach the training or what the training was for them. I don't think you're alone in that. Do you have any other sort of tips for people heading into drama school training? Anything that they should really bear in mind? Do's, don'ts, anything of that sort based on your own knowledge?
Yeah, I would definitely look outside of just drama school as well, as in terms of look within the industry, make connections already. Don't just rely on that when you come out of drama school, because you think that when you go in, I'm in drama school, I'm going to be set, I'm going to come out of the school and I'm going to be signed with a big agent, I'll be working all the time. And that actually isn't the case. You might be very, very lucky and that might be the case, but 9 times out of 10, it's called work because it's a job. You have to take it seriously. So whilst you're in drama school, make those connections, reach out to people, use Twitter, use Instagram, use Facebook, because they're just, social platforms are just getting bigger and bigger all the time. And whether you like using them or not, unfortunately, people turn to them for connections and making work now. And it might sound a bit cheesy, but this industry is sometimes who you know, and those opportunities can come with that.
Yeah, undoubtedly. You have a UK and US dual citizenship, and while undoubtedly actors from across the pond either side can deliver great performances, the route to them, both in terms of acting and business, can be very different. If you were to build the perfect dual citizenship actor, generalization, of course, what traits would you take from America and what traits would you take from the UK?
I feel like with Americans, there's not a sense of fear. Like, Americans tend to just they'll give anything a go, and they're not afraid to do that. And I really admired that from when I lived there. They're not afraid to be like, this is who I am and I'm going to show the world that. And I feel like with a Spritz, we can be very polite and reserved.
Yeah.
And we can definitely put other people in front of us, which is just such a lovely trait. And I think that's just being kind, which is nice. But I think being an actor, you just have to be unafraid to show who you really are. And I think, but with Brits, I think that we're not as afraid to be really vulnerable when we're in a scene or we're auditioning, and not afraid to be ugly, and unafraid to be really go all the way when you're auditioning. Whereas I've found some American actors, not all, I'm not generalizing, but some American actors, it tends to be more about looks than what they feel they can bring to a role. Whereas with Brits, it tends to be, okay, this is my talent, and then if I look like I could play in the scene, that tends to be like a second factor, if that makes sense a little bit. I think also, oh gosh, it's so weird to think about it now, but when I remember when I went to auditions in LA, it tended to be the room was full of women and girls who looked like me, which was very odd. It was very stereotypical, it's something out of La La Land. It was everyone looked like me. When I go for auditions in England, no one really tends to. There's something different about people, which is great, because I think there's a wider choice for. It's not so narrow-minded, if that makes sense. They're more open. The casting directors and directors are probably a little bit more open to seeing variations of people out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it would be hard to find a room full of people that look like me. What do you think, Christian? They'd need to
That's great,
no, they'd probably need to break into the sort of reptile section at
Oh,
London Zoo to find
sorry.
people that.
Yeah, I was going to say they'd need to be hit by a bus a couple of times. No,
Yeah.
I'm
They need to have the boggle eyes. What about you, Smith? Do you reckon they'd find people that look like you?
I don't know. What do you think? I'm not going to answer that.
I know. I was trying to bait him into talking about his jawline or something arrogant like that.
No.
Never, never. I do have a question though about US actors and the sort of the way that they seem to run a room. So when a US actor goes into an audition, it's almost as if they have control of what happens and how it happens and when it happens. The idea of, can I do a bit of prep before I start the scene? Oh, that take wasn't good. Can I start that again? And they seem to, take control of the room, whereas UK actors on the whole are a lot more polite and back foot with that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and just let other people lead the room. But do you think that taking that American attitude into UK rooms would be beneficial, or do you think to some people it'd rub them up the wrong way and come across as arrogant?
I think though it's like people, regardless whether you're in the acting industry or not, people are always going to be they're going to have different personalities and different traits and different tastes. But I think at the end of the day, what I've really noticed and realized that that audition, that self-tape is time for you. It's your time. It's not anyone else's. At 2 to 10 minutes, however long you get in there. 10 minutes would be great, but probably never happen. It's time for you to show your stuff, really. I think I actually used to be really overly polite and used to come in, and I used to be probably a little bit meek in auditions and just expect them to see a full-bodied person that way, and you just never really do. But when I auditioned for the Nevers, I definitely took that time to prepare and go over like the lines once, actually, with one of Nina Gold's assistants actually in the room. And I remembered reading the lines in a British accent, in my own accent, and the role is Italian. But this was my recall, and I just remember though knowing that if I read the lines in my British accent, it would have helped me get into the scene, which is a bit of an odd way. But I remember knowing that helped me, and I remember doing that before the audition, before the self-tape recording happened, and then I went into it, and it was kind of actually like one of the first times I'd ever done that. Really taken the time for me to think, no, this is my time, this is my audition. And I mean, I think it helped. So I think we should definitely take more of that on board when we're on auditions as British actors, because at the end of the day, I think it's everyone says, oh, they want you to be able to be the role, they want you to come in and succeed. I think we just have to remember that when we go in.
Yeah. Just while we're on that subject, we were recently speaking to an actor, Philip Roche, on our podcast, and he was talking about just that. People like Timothée Chalamet on set doing tons of press ups before every scene, and that's something I would personally be like, oh, I don't want to do that. But if it's good enough for him, then we should all just take what's right for us at that moment.
Yeah, no, you are. I mean, I was doing squats with Amy Manson on the Nevers, and she plays Melody, and she's an awesome actress. We were doing squats together because I won't spoil anything, but we had to do this real big actiony thing, and we were getting really out of breath. And before, though, I would have been like so conscious about doing that, years ago. But now there was like 200 crew around us and other cast, and I just didn't care, because at the end of the day, it's like after that work day's finished, everyone's going to go home and live their life. But when the show comes out, you're going to see that scene and think, oh, I could have done that differently. Oh, I shouldn't have cared what people thought of me. So I think it's back to that. You just really don't care what people think of you.
I really like as well that you spoke about taking more ownership of your audition process when it was for a much bigger part than what some other auditions that you would have done. And that, sometimes the size of the project can actually make people go more in the reverse rather than take more control. They give themselves more over to the powers that be. I think that's especially the case when people audition for drama school, especially if it's their first year auditioning. They go, oh God, I'm auditioning for RADA. I'm just going to let them. And I often think drama school auditions are almost a game, like it's almost a challenge to some schools. They go in, they go on, impress me, go on, do something different, go on, be arrogant. They're looking for that diamond in the rough rather than that polite individual.
You know what, though, my audition, I remember for drama school for Arts Ed, I remember being in that corridor. I think it's all had a refurb now, but I think it was on the second floor in the black box room, if you guys can remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was there, and I remember a couple of the year above us, they were helping with the auditions. And I had my Shakespeare down, that was fine, but I was toying between the two contemporary pieces. And one of them, you could only do a contemporary piece after a certain date, I'm sure it was. And my piece, I was like, I wasn't happy with it. So I remember thinking, oh, I really don't want to do it. The one I really want to do is a piece that technically I'm not allowed to do because it's after or before a certain date. And I remember speaking to one of the guys there who was one of the helpers, who was another student, and I was just like in my head about it. And he was just like, just do what you want. Like, just don't even tell them, like, just do it. So I went in, I did the one that I wasn't really supposed to do, and it paid off. Like, it's so weird you said that. I've just remembered that story. I hadn't thought about it for years. And I think it's such a true thing that you just have to take these chances and just do it.
100%. I think just not giving a shit at that stage as well, just going in and just saying, I just don't care in the nicest. It's not like you don't care, but you know what I mean. It's that attitude. I remember I got my place at ArtsEd because I knew it was my last drama school audition out of all of them. I had already got a place at a different school, and I went, there's no pressure on me. There's none whatsoever. And I went in with a totally different attitude, and I know that that's what got me the place on the course. I'd love to move on to talk about one of your other job roles, one of your many other job roles, and that's as a presenter for BBC Lincolnshire. And I'd love to know how useful having acting skills like improvisation and active listening have been in that job. And have you learned anything as a radio presenter that has benefited your work in other mediums like acting?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that the radio editors and producers said to me is that I really am very strong interviewing skills. And I think that comes from us having to listen and respond from years of practicing reading scripts and doing scenes. I think that's something a lot of people, and I know a lot of people actually who are radio presenters, have to go for training for, because it's one of the hardest things apparently to navigate as a presenter. I think also one of the hardest things I find as a radio presenter is just being me, which is really odd to say. It's one of the hardest things. I find it, I'm being really truthful now and showing a bit like, not a weakness, but showing that I'm actually a real human with vulnerabilities, is that I find it difficult to talk about myself even just for like 2 minutes, or stories about myself, because I think as actors we're so prone to giving the attention to someone else, or if we do have the attention on ourselves, it's actually not us, if that makes sense. So it's we're always hiding behind someone. So I've definitely tried to take more of that attitude of owning the room or owning a situation into radio presenting. But radio presenting into acting, I think the biggest skills I've learned again is networking, because you have to find people for the shows, for example, but also just
Great. I mean, I'd love to ask you if your radio presenting has really helped in things like when you're chatting before an audition, and they ask you questions about, oh, what did you think of the script? And do you have any thoughts on the character, any questions and things like that? Is that very much you go into Domenique, the radio presenter mode when you have those chats? Has that benefited you in that arena?
Well, I started off radio presenting and they told me, they were like, you're too what's a word for that, you're like not RP, but you're presenting too much, if that makes sense. Like, they wanted actually just, as if we're talking now, like talking to mates, they wanted that attitude more. So that's definitely, that's actually really helped. I haven't really thought of that before, but that's definitely helped, being able to talk to people just like normal humans. And I think we forget that we see these people who are just, they're in our way to get the job we want. So we kind of do think, oh, we have to impress them or do something. Again, I think after having left drama school, there's that attitude I definitely would take back, as in, these people are just people, they have flaws, they have, they do random weird stuff just like we do. There's no, they're not sitting on a higher stool than us. So I definitely have thought taking that from radio presenting into talking to people like they're people, which is really weird to say. You just have to think of people as if they really are your friend already, and like as if you have the job already as well. I think that massively helps.
Here at Actors Coaching International, we like to partner up with the best, which is why we're offering In The Room listeners 20% discount on all of our classes. When booking, simply put in capital letters, InTheRoom20, that's InTheRoom20, in the discount code, or email us hello@actorsci.com, mentioning In The Room when booking.
Yeah, that's some really, really great advice. I'd love to go back to, you were talking about the Nevers a moment ago, your most prominent role as an actor, Beth Cassini, a character you've spoken about as being close to you. I'd really love to know what the audition process was like, and how much do you feel being invested in the character was an advantage or disadvantage emotionally?
Yeah, I remember that role. I hadn't got an audition in quite a while before that came up, and I'd taken on some temp work, and I I was literally getting coffee from my boss at the time, and I got this phone call, and it was from my agent, and they they were like, "Oh, you've got an audition for Nina Gold's office," and I was just like, "Oh, brilliant!" Like, one of the top casting directors, and I haven't had an audition in so long, and it just had to be typical, didn't it? And I was like, okay, fine. And they said, and he's my agent at the time, he was like, okay, you have to be able to speak fluent Italian, conversation on the spot, you have to. And I was like, I mean, I can talk Italian, but don't throw him in the deep end of it, because it's going to be a nightmare. And I said, well, what did you say? And he said, yeah, well, I said, yes, obviously, of course you can. I was like, okay.
Cheers, thanks for that.
Thank you. I was like, brilliant, okay. So I got the sides, and they were dummy sides. They weren't the real sides. And I had to, it was the most work I've ever had to do an audition. I definitely know they did it on purpose. So they gave us 2 sides of about 4 or 5 pages, and 2 different scenes. And I had to translate them into Italian myself. There was no like help with that. So I remember coming home to my parents' house with my dad and just sitting down with him, and I was like, right, come on, just speak Italian to me again, and we're gonna just translate everything. And I did not put those sides down. I was trying to, and like, as well as learning the lines, I had to learn them in Italian and make sure I had them down. And then I had to get the Italian accent down. I don't want to say at first it sounded like, Super Mario, because it didn't, but maybe it did, but it's fine. So yeah, then I had the first audition, which was in a it's somewhere in Soho, and it was in person, which was great. Those were the days. And I did the scene twice, and it was fine. I just thought, okay, it's done. I probably didn't get it. It's fine. But I remember them asking me in there, you speak fluent Italian, don't you? You can speak it, completely fluently on the spot. And I was just like, yes. I mean, yes, I can. It's one of those, it's like Joey from Friends, and they say, can you do this? Can you do this? You say, yes.
Yeah.
Of course you do. And I mean, I can do it, but it would be I was afraid I was going to freeze. So anyway, I left the audition. I didn't think about it anymore. And then about a week later, I got another call, and they said, oh, we want you for a recall. I said, oh, okay, cool. I went to Nina Gold's actual office at the time, went to film the scene the first time, and this is where I said I actually took the moment to just be like, can you wait a second? And one of the assistants was lovely, and I just said, can you just give me 1 minute? So I went through the lines quickly in my head in a British accent, and she even said, the accent's Italian. I was like, oh no, I know. I know. So I did the audition in Italian, left it, and then there was meant to be another audition, actually meeting the exec producers, but it turned out that they decided not to in the end, and they gave me the role. But it was actually really very interesting, because after the first season had been filmed, I met up with a few of the execs, and I said, what was your vision for Beth Cassini in the first place? And what was I exactly who you imagined? And they said, no, not really. I was like, okay. They're like, no, not all right. No, not really. But you brought something in your audition that we didn't know we were looking for. you brought this strength to her that not no one else had brought, and I it does make sense now, because the character is actually if you've seen it, or if not, but the character, she seems quite weak. You know, it can be very easy to play a character on first assumptions of who they are, just playing them very one-sided. But I think I did play in my mind. I remember thinking, no, there's something else in her, that there's a reason why she's like this. And I brought that to the audition. It was just really interesting to hear it from the other side, though, because you don't really get to hear feedback or anything once you've done an audition. So I've tried now to bring that into every single other role I've gone in, just to make them a 3D person, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I like that, it sort of enforces the idea that you should always go with your instincts, go with your gut, as long as it links to, those thoughts are what come from you reading the text. It's not come from nowhere. You don't just do it as a gimmick. It has to be backed up by something. But going with your instincts, it provides the most unique performance. Because otherwise, if you just go with, okay, I need to really think about what do I think they want to see, then you'll pretty much end up do something that everyone else that has asked that same question will do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that when those producers and casting directors watch those tapes, when they get, hundreds in for the same role, they'll see, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same, and just discount people really quickly that way. But if you just follow your gut, because you're a unique individual, your tape inherently will be unique. I think that's a really good enforcement of that tip.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd love to know about, what was the experience like once you landed the role on such a high budget production, as well as any useful tips for delivering, a really naturalistic performance under pressure in an alternate version of Victorian London filled with magic.
Just everyday stuff.
Yeah.
I think, you know what, part of this role that I say is quite it was quite a rare experience for me to be able to play this role in particular, because she's an immigrant from Italy into a country that is not accepting of immigrants at that time, and really looks down upon them, especially women as well. So she's got that on top of being an immigrant. And she has powers, and people look down on that as well. So many layers. But I think what I really found very close to my heart with this role is because my grandparents were immigrants from Italy into England, and they were completely looked down upon as well. And I think that's, it's very rare for someone to be able to play a role so close to the heart, to do with family or close friends or anything. So I think this role, especially for me, is one that I've really felt a lot of love for. But I remember my first day going in there. It was January 16th 2020. That was my first day on set, and I remember turning up, and it was the first scene of episode 2 where I first come in, and the whole set, the whole location was Ian Fleming, James Bond, Ian Fleming's childhood home, and it was this massive manor house. It was beautiful, this house, but they turned it into a department store, and there must have been 300 plus cast, crew, extras, everything on set that day. And I was like, good God, my God, like, I don't want to swear, but like, insert that right here, like, wow. So yeah, I turned up, and my God, it was a lot. But I just remember thinking, you know what, this is my job, and I just had to remind myself that. And I think as well, when you're playing opposite such notable actors, I mean, I was playing against Alex McQueen, who's probably most notable from The Inbetweeners, and Dennis O'Hare from American Horror Story, and oh God, he's done so much. And I was the biggest fan of Dennis O'Hare before I even met him. So I remember like being in scenes with him and trying not to fangirl, because I absolutely adore him, and he's like one of the nicest people ever. But I think you have to remember, like, you're here for a reason. Like, you were good enough to be here. Like, you were chosen, and you deserve to be here. And I think we have to remember that as well when we get on any size job, any budget. It doesn't matter, that we deserve to be here just as much as anyone else. So I think that's I think there's definitely that British side of us as well, that, you know, we're so thankful for the opportunity. And I think that's also an actor thing. You know, we become so thankful to be there, have a job regardless. But no, you know, we earned it, and, you know, it's it's our time to shine. So why not enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You hear some of the biggest actors in the world with talking about that sort of imposter syndrome. So completely agree. Another role of yours is executive producer for DBK Studios,
Mhm.
working with companies such as Sky. In an industry that's very top heavy financially, what's your go-to strategy when approaching individuals or organizations to help finance your work?
I think the biggest appeal, actually, and the biggest motivation for us is why we're doing it. It's why a production company was started in the first place, why I joined the production company. It's to help find these unique voices that they haven't necessarily had the chance or opportunity to show off their talent with yet. And especially with DBK, we want to empower diverse talent, especially Black individuals and Black filmmakers and storytellers, um, to be able to show these unique stories only they can tell into the world, and hopefully something else can come from those stories. You know, TV series, features, them signing with agents, or just realizing, you know what, I've made a short film, that's good enough for me. I've got my story out there. And that definitely has been the biggest appeal for individuals wanting to get involved with DBK Studios. And I'm sure it's the same for any production company, really, just the motivation behind it in the first place.
Absolutely, and I think people can sense if someone's being disingenuous with that type of work,
Yeah.
if someone isn't really into the project or they're doing it for the sake of it to grandstand or whatever, then they're going to get found out. So doing it with the right people for the right reasons, as you say, is absolutely key. You were a recipient of the Diana Award for your anti-bullying work growing up, which is amazing, and that was specifically for your involvement in Wednesday's Child, which was a short film about gun crime. And as an adult, you still closely work with this organization. What drew you to campaigning, if that is the right term, for anti-bullying organizations? And how should people best deal with bullies in an industry that is increasingly waking up to the idea that bullying is actually not okay?
Yeah, it's I mean, I was bullied when I was I mean, maybe you guys were as well. I
Uh,
don't think the only one.
yes.
Yeah.
Probably by people that look like Christian, actually, thinking about
Oh, oh.
Actually, I was bullied at school. Or how you know?
it.
What
Well, yeah.
Christian?
Yeah.
All right, you didn't sound so surprised when I said it, Dominique. Jesus.
Really quiet. You get really quiet, so I thought Christians were like, I was the bully.
No, I wasn't. I was really shy.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we all were there. So,
There we go.
well, not in a bad way, but you know what I mean. Like, apparently, though, there's actually a statistic that bullied individuals are more likely to be succeeding in life. So,
Well, we'll wait for that to happen, won't we, Christian? That's a
yeah. Anyway, okay, breathe. Yeah, I was bullied when I was younger, and then I remember the production company with Wednesday's Child, they were coming to Lincolnshire to film the short, and they were looking for extras, and me being me, didn't just want an extra role, I wanted a main role. So I remember asking for the sides for the lead roles, and I auditioned for it, and then they gave me one of the lead roles.
Oh.
You sound really shocked.
No. I just thought that's cool.
Well, no, I mean, I feel like 12-year-old me was very much more out there than, you know, teenager me. So yeah, so we filmed that in Lincolnshire, and then it was picked up by, it was getting attention from festivals and just in general other organizations, and the Down Award heard about it, and we were nominated for the Darren Award, which was great anyway. But then we won the Darren Award, and it was presented to us at BAFTA, and presented to us as well by Amal Amin, who just finished directing Boxing Day actually as well. A great film. Yeah, from then on, you know, some people who received the award, you know, chose to leave it as is, but I really wanted to get involved with the company even more. So I decided to help out as much as I can. I became an ambassador for them, and since then I've given talks in corporate environments, schools. I've been to Downing Street. I've met some of the royal family, just to speak about anti-bullying, what could be done more about it in schools, how the Darren Award can encourage other people to bring the Darren Award into their school and help with mentor programs. It's also not just, an organization which tries to help with bullying and anti-bullying. It's a organization that works with young individuals to help them, get their CVs up and ready, and give mentoring programs and help get jobs and give them great connections that they may not necessarily have been able to get without them. It's been lovely to be involved with them. And then last year I was also involved as a judge for the newcomers for the Darren Award as well. So it was a really nice full circle. And then I was also asked to be in the documentary with Jessie Nelson from Little Mix, the BBC Three documentary Odd One Out, and we were talking about our experiences of online bullying and abuse as well. So I had the opportunity to meet a lot of young people who have had very extreme or maybe not as extreme experiences with online bullying, and just hearing other people with their stories, it kind of, it happened, this goes on in the world, but when you actually really listen to these people and understand their story, it really puts things into perspective, that it's actually real. There's always something more that we could do for other people, and just keeping an eye out and just asking people, like, are you okay? Like, is there something I can do? Is something going on?
Yeah. Do you think that is the best thing we can do in this industry when dealing with bullies? As I think that, telling people, you should do this, this, or this, it's very dependent on the individual or the situation. But what can we do as an industry to eradicate bullying, if that's possible?
Yeah, creating those levels of superiority, it creates such a toxic environment being on set. So you just don't want to go on set feeling like, oh, I can't approach this individual, or I can't approach director, or I can't approach the exec, because I'm not allowed. I'm not on their level. I mean, I've even speaking to some individuals on the Nevers who are very notable actors. I won't say their names, but being notable actors, they're even saying, oh, I've definitely been on sets, last week, and there was definitely cliques, and I definitely wasn't in the clique. And you're thinking, how? Like, you're you. How is that possible? And they're like, no, it's true. It happens everywhere. I think we need to be conscious of that. I think we as individuals need to take that responsibility and not just rely on other people to make sure that everyone feels welcome. I think if everyone takes that responsibility on themselves to feel like, oh, I don't know this person, I'm going to say hi. Oh, I don't know this person, I'm going to make an effort to say hello to them or talk to them. I think it just makes everyone feel welcome and safe and just enjoying being there as well, if that makes sense. I was on set again for the Nevers, and a male costume designer came up to me, and I didn't see them at the side of me, and I turned, and he jumped back so quick with his hands up in the air, and I went, oh, I'm sorry, did you want to see something? And he went, no, I might, I'm just looking, but he had his hands in the air the whole time, and I couldn't help but think, after the whole Me Too, men on set must really be having to be extra careful. I hadn't really thought about it I guess I never really will think about it from that point of view. I mean, you guys must be thinking about it more than I would be. But again, I think being a female on set as well, that's one thing I wouldn't have to think about. It's just interesting. I think, people are clearly thinking about it and taking it into consideration. It's just something we all have to take note of, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Now we've spoken a lot about your various acting roles, I think it's fair to say that you're a very multi-talented creative.
It's like so busy. It's very annoying.
And there's lots of discussions about the pros and cons of working across different jobs at once.
Mhm.
From your experience as working as an actor, producer, radio presenter, and more, what are your genuine pluses and negatives?
I'll start with the negatives.
Oh,
Oh, you start the negatives as well. I think the negatives are, again, being stretched out sometimes as well. You know, you want to give your all to every single platform, but it's difficult. I've definitely been radio presenting and then got an email, hey, you've got a self-tape you need to do by tomorrow. Right, okay.
yeah.
So whilst I'm presenting, every time the music comes on, I'm sat behind there reading lines, you know, doing accents in my head. And then I've been in auditions, and then I get a call from Kobe, who is the founder of DBK, saying, "Hey, we've got a meeting, you know, with Sky in an hour. Can you join via Zoom? Blah blah blah." And it's like, well, no, I can't. It's like you don't want to let anyone down as well. And I think that as actors, that's our worst nightmare, letting anyone down or having to say no to any opportunities. I think that's the hardest thing. I think as well though, it's my mind is constantly thinking about everything, if that makes sense as well. And sometimes I do wish it was just solely about one thing at a time. But then again, I guess a positive as well, that if I was just solely thinking about acting the whole time, I would drive myself crazy. Because when you don't have a job going on, or you're not auditioning or something, you don't want to wait for that phone call. It's the whole stereotypical thing, isn't it? You don't want to wait for the phone call, so you have to find something else to do. And it's like probably why you guys started this podcast. Like, I think it's such a great idea, and you're helping people at the same time as keeping busy and making connections. Like, it's a huge win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was the idea of how can we get in situations where we can talk to people that generally just won't open your email if you're just an actor emailing them? So how can we? Do you know what I mean? Though, like, casting directors get hundreds of emails a day, agents get hundreds of emails a day. But if we approach these industry professionals with a different way, and as you said, it's about legitimately believing in what you do, and we believe in this platform, and we're doing it for ourselves to learn, and then people to learn along with us, and anything we learn along the way, we share it, and that's something we believe in, and it seems to connect with people. So I totally agree with you. It's, you know, finding ways to not just be focused on just acting and just your agent and just that
About
connection.
someone.
It's
Yeah,
finding
I
other
think
ways to network and talk to people. I 100% agree with that.
so. Yeah, to finish it up, Dominique, we've got some rapid fire questions, which I'll be doing all of, obviously.
Okay.
So if you could answer them in one word or less, that
Okay.
would be great.
That's
Right. So, one piece of advice you would give to your younger self.
Not care as much.
What's your TV guilty pleasure?
Oh, Entourage.
If you could only keep doing one of your many job roles, what would it be?
Oh no. Acting.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Cuba.
One performance every actor should watch.
Oh God. I'm going to say Dennis O'Hare in American Horror Story Hotel.